So this is just a shortened version of the agenda that you should have received in your email yesterday. That was a draft version, but in any case, we've got a few things going on, but let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And if everyone could put their information in the chat, just name, pronouns, and if you're affiliated with an organization, you can include that as well. If you're not, you could include whatever else you want if you want to add something. And while you're typing that in, thank you. And let's go ahead and I'll run through the group agreements. So just be as present as possible, and I'll put a little emphasis on the possible. If you need to step away, if you need to just step or roll away, something like that, that's perfectly fine. Just know yourself. But we just want people to be as present as possible. Be curious. We want to have a discussion here, ask questions, commit to learning from each other, share the time, and create a welcoming space for everyone. And we have to expect and accept discomfort and ambiguity. And if you have other agreements that you want to pass along to us that we should include here, please feel free. So this is a little reminder of the appreciation payment or appreciation tokens. I forget what we call it. This is optional. You do have to opt in. We're still figuring out our system, and it's a little different for individuals and for organizations, but we do want to honor your time here and give you this option. And while I'm at it, this is not on the slide, but I'll make a plug too for if anyone else is interested in joining George as one of the co-chairs. I know we haven't really acted on it, and I think it'll be still a couple weeks, but we want to start planning these with some help from you. So if that sounds interesting, we're probably looking at, since we meet almost every other week, not quite, of course, we'll be meeting in that off week is the idea. So something to consider. But let's go ahead and get to the meat of this. We've got 5 different items that we're going to be talking about. And these are suggestions that we've received. Now, we've gotten a lot more than 5, but sort of with Samantha's help, we selected 5 simpler things, partially because this is our initial run at it, and partially because we're already under a deadline to get them into the September build. So we wanted to pick a simpler item to do that. And so, there's 30 plus items that are floating around. And one other note before we dive into it too is that a lot of these aren't just a yes or no. These are, hey, we need to add something and we're going to need this group's help to figure out the text that will show up there. So in this first one, we're calling A. There's this is an example of a pop-up that is not there, but maybe we need. And Ruth, you have your hand up.
I'm going to need it in a larger print on the screen.
Okay. Is there a way, Angel, you can do that? I know in Zoom, if you go to the top, there's a view option button. If you move your cursor to the top, you can also make it larger for yourself.
I'm already at full screen.
That doesn't work on this particular issue.
Angel, can you make it bigger on your side? If you do like a control scroll up,
Oh,
make it bigger.
it does. It does. No, Ruth, it couldn't be up to top option. It goes all the way up to 300.
Yeah.
If it says zoom ratio on the top, then And then just keep going to the right, then it goes to fit to window, and then it has 50 to 300. Ooh, I put 300 on and there's not even room on my screen.
Yeah, I don't, Angel, it doesn't seem like that's gonna work since it's an image for on our end, but if Ruth, you can,
I will play with it and let you know.
okay. Well, I'm sorry about that, and I knew that these slides are gonna be a problem. We were trying to make them bigger, but we're gonna have to figure out maybe a different presentation style in the future. See, this is, like I said, our trial run. So Ruth, I really appreciate that feedback. So hopefully you can make it bigger though in the meantime. And in this case here, we this is the dashboard that people, you know, when they want to check what their benefits are, they'll see this, but you know, we also have an option that people can go paperless, so they can not receive as much of the mail. And so we could have a pop-up message. And this pop-up that you see on your screen, which probably is difficult to read because the font is relatively small, but this is just example text. If we were to select this one, for instance, we could write that text or come up with a draft. So, so that's the idea on this one.
James, is there a gray banner that keeps popping up?
Yeah, we're, I think this is not, Zoom is not the most common thing that we use. So Angel's having fun getting to know Zoom live with us here.
That's okay. I didn't know if I had done that, so.
No, it's showing up on all our screens. I think, Angel, if you could, however you made the screen bigger, just return it back to 100% or normal size. That'll, I think, get that to go away.
And I figured out how to enlarge it.
Good.
Oh, wonderful. That's good to hear. Thank you, Ruth.
If anybody else needs it, you'll find a little white line. If you put your cursor on it, you get a double arrow and you move it, it'll enlarge the picture.
Wow.
That's different than mine.
Does everyone feel comfortable with the size? Do we need to talk about this?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right, and so this is our second option, option B here. A similar method here, but in a different screen. If when someone is applying for benefits and they check off that they have safety concerns, right now it just moves on, but we could have a pop-up window that says that assistance is available, but you need to go to an office or a call to get domestic violence survivor benefits. Yeah, that's not something you can do in the one system. So that is another option that we can talk about doing. I'm just going to keep on rolling. Then, yeah. So this one is a smaller change, but it could affect more people. So when you create a password, or when you update a password, you get you have to fill out all this information, well, when you create it, and then though the password tells you that you have to it has to have one you know, one uppercase, one lowercase, a number, and then a symbol. And I don't know how good your Latin is, but that E.G there at the bottom right, and then all those symbols, that means example. And really, that's misleading. It should say something.
I'd be punching in the
Well, if you need a symbol, you can only use those, 7 symbols. So we could clarify the language to say that and not say an example of these symbols, but you know, one of these symbols or only these symbols, something like that. That's an option that we can do.
12 to 24 characters. That's pretty darn long.
Yep. Well, a minimum of 12 characters is pretty long.
I don't have any passwords that are 12 long. Wow.
Yeah.
Jim, Um,
Yeah,
I'm-
George?
and something like that, when it goes to username and password, especially on passwords, I come across where it would read 8 characters instead of 12.
In the one system or?
No, just anywhere I go.
Oh, yeah, usually it's 8. This, I mean, for obvious reasons, we're very worried about security. And so this is a 12 character minimum. And, we can get in probably in a lengthy discussion about passwords and security and such.
Yeah, because passwords are like the number one frustration for people on any website.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
And especially if you're gonna, if your department is wanting people to change it every 6 months or so, having a 12 character, it would probably be a little frustrating for them trying to figure out, well, what is gonna be a 12?
you know what I do? I don't know how much I should say this, but I'll put a number at the end of my password, and so when it wants to change, I just change the number by 1 digit.
yes, I used to do that when I worked there.
So, but it's a pain. I do not deny it. Oh, here's the fourth one, this option D. Now, when you go to the landing page for one, as we say, that one.oregon.gov, the main screen, you'll see, that guy at the computer, and then those, there's 6 options. Those are just the first 3 that you can see. But one of the things that we've seen and run into is that there's this thing called authorized representative. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but the authorized representative, is someone who has, I guess, the legal responsibility over a case. So you're helping, there's probably people in this virtual room who can describe it better than I can, but you're the person who is putting the information in, and you're legally responsible if there's a problem with the person's information and making sure that they get their benefits. So it's a big responsibility that, if someone has dementia or is otherwise incapacitated, typically there'll be an authorized representative for them. So there's a little confusion when you start. It's like, well, which of these tabs do you go? And it's sort of clear, but one thing we've discovered is it's a little more clear in the mobile app. And if you go to the next slide, in the mobile app, these are the first several screens you see, but in that last one that's set up, you can see, first tell us how you want to set up your account. And it has a choice between individual and authorized representative, just sort of clearly explaining both, because that's really the choice. And now I'm going to be a pain in the neck. Go back to the previous screen, Angel. Here it's that there's that manage account screen or option that is, is sort of different. If you're starting an account, that's a different choice. And then there's 3 other choices below that. And so the idea here would be to change the wording and the setup of this opening screen so it's a little more in alignment with the One Mobile app. So I hope that makes sense. I'm throwing a lot of stuff here at you. Okay, so this last one, this 5th one, there's a lot of places in one where you're going to input information, and it could be in the initial time or when you're doing renewals, like for instance, in this screen, income. And you put it in, and the idea is, oh, if you've put it in, maybe you need to edit it. And so there's a little pencil there. Or maybe you've typed something in and you realize, oh, that was a mistake. I need to take it out. And there's that red X. Well, there's no explanation anywhere of what those symbols mean, the little pencil and the red X. Should we add some explanatory text somewhere? It could be a pop-up, it could be something like that to explain what does the pencil and the red X mean.
Right.
So those are the 5 options. Any questions about any of these?
So are we gonna pick one of the 5, or are these the 5 changes that are happening and we're making our suggestions to those changes?
Excellent question, Vanessa. No, you guys are gonna, well, the way we're thinking of doing it this time around, because we're gonna be doing this sort of thing in the future, is we're gonna ask you to prioritize this list. Now, really, we're just gonna be selecting the top one this time around. But we would love for you to consider these 5 options and think about what the order. And actually, Angel, I made a new slide. If you go to the next slide, since we're running a little early, take those 5 options and put them in the order. Say, first or number 1 is maybe the thing you want to do is D, to change the mobile app thing. So you put 1 and D, and then 2, you like the paperless pop-up question is the next highest priority, but 2 is A, and vote for, put in order all 5. If you're not sure, that's okay, but we're going to be asking you to do that in the chat, and one of my esteemed colleagues will be tracking that information in the chat. But I also, we can take a little break. You can think about it, but I'm happy to have discussion here too of which ones you're thinking about. And one other meta comment about all this is we have to come up with a system in the future when we have a whole bunch of options. How do we select like our favorite 3, 4, or 5 of them? And sometimes, I'd say 5 because maybe a spot will open up, but maybe sometimes we'll only have 3 because of some other juggling or whatever that's happened. So it's important that we prioritize them so we can think about what we really want in and what can wait a month.
I also have questions about like what these changes or implications can mean. Like my thing, the safety concern pop-up, like what if someone's filling that out and they're sitting alongside their abuser and they hit that like quickly, and then this pops up like, oh, you indicated this, and what could that mean? Yeah.
That is an excellent point. Maybe we don't want to do a pop-up like that to draw attention to those questions any more than because they're already there. The questions about, are you feeling safe and such, but a pop-up will definitely
Be saying,
draw
yeah,
attention to it.
correct. And so like, is there another method that they can use? Like either someone follows up or you receive something on the side or a call, but something that's not so, hey, you indicated this, because yeah, subtle is the best way that we've seen.
Yeah, it's well, does someone else have a comment on that?
Hey, James.
Yeah.
It's Sam. Hey, I'm here now.
Welcome, Samantha. Yeah.
So that's a really great point. We do have other ways that we can handle this, Vanessa, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're correct that if there is a pop-up, it would, it takes time for it to load, right? It's not something where they could click the, yes, I have safety concerns, and then click next really fast while that person's distracted or whatever, it does add extra seconds to this. So that's really great feedback. Another way we could take this is potentially looking at creating what we call a task. A task is kind of a to-do for a worker, right? When the application gets submitted, we create to-dos for the worker. And one of them that we can look at adding instead is a to-do that like, hey, this person checked safety concerns, any of these safety concerns, and maybe the TD would even say which one, and can you reach out to them? So that the worker would get an FYI that a safety concern was indicated, but not necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily call attention to it in the applicant portal.
I
So-
think that's, I would feel way more comfortable with that. Because like, I know I have clients that I'm working with and they're afraid when I brought up like, oh, you know, situation like you couldn't apply for TANF DV. She's like, I don't want to do that if that's going to flag my partner. I don't want my partner to see like if he's still getting mail there. And so I think having a task would be great, because then I think when the caseworker reaches out, they'll also have that in mind, you know, like, oh, is this a safe, are you safe to talk? Is this a good time to talk about these things versus a pop-up where it could take time for someone to clear out or yeah.
Yeah, great feedback. I love it.
Now that we have our expert with us too, any other questions over any of these?
I do,
options?
sorry. I am like, what does this mean? If someone does this, is this gonna negatively affect them? Because the paperless pop-up, for a lot of other services, they need these determinations to access additional services. Like I need proof of your ERDC for you to be on Baby Promise. I need proof of your SNAP to qualify your child for Head Start. And I had this recently happen a few days ago where I said, hey, I need a proof of your ERDC. And they weren't able to pull it from their one account. And you don't automatically have the option to do a mobile app when you sign up for one. So then you have to go into mobile, and she was having a hard time connecting them. So it became like a 10-day process just to get a copy of her determination of eligibility. So what, like maybe saying like, hey, you know, if you do paperless, it'll be found here, or what does that mean? Because that is sometimes really the golden ticket for a lot of clients.
So yeah, as soon as you started talking about the issues the person was having with mobile, I was like, oh, and my brain started going down that rabbit hole. So I apologize, Vanessa. But I would like to talk to you more about that and how we can help with that, because there shouldn't be any difficulty connecting. But we can talk about that offline. So the paperless pop-up question. So basically what happens is an individual always receives their notices in their message center on applicant portal. It is always there. So again, another thing we might need to talk about is ensuring that they were looking at the right case number to see the notice. And we can have a little offline about that, Vanessa. But for some notices, what we're saying is instead of mailing them to you, we would only place them in your online portal. And it's optional. Basically, it's giving the opportunity if they want to go paperless. Sometimes when people are filling out these applications really fast, they miss that there is the paperless option. There are things that will still be mailed when even if they choose to go paperless. One of them is renewal notices. We will still mail you your renewal notice regardless. But one of the things we won't mail is your notice of eligibility, as you've mentioned. It would only go into that online. So for people who are struggling to access their notice online, might not be a good option. The department is wanting to drive more people to go paperless if they feel comfortable with it. We were actually having a concern when this was originally suggested that we were running out of envelopes, oddly enough. Like we were having issues getting enough envelopes, and that's kind of where this big like push towards paperless happened. But again, when we're talking about the pop-up, they should still have access to it in their applicant portal, and it still would make it optional. You do not have to go paperless if you don't want to. We would never push people to have to go paperless.
No, I get that, and but maybe putting a message of where to get them, because like that's also a lot of clients who are also going through DV. They don't want to do paper and have it accidentally mailed to an old address, and they can then like know what they're accessing. But I think maybe also aligning it to the app, because I had worked on the app on like getting it set up. I was like, oh, looking at your documents. She's like, there's no documents. And then when she went into messages, because the determination had been older, she was just getting like her renewal heads up. So maybe matching it, or like, I wouldn't think to put it in messages. Like, I want to look at my documents, and it'll be like, what was up, you've uploaded, or here's your determination, and doing that. Cause I think when it was messages, she was clicking and clicking and she was trying to figure out when did I receive the determination. So she's going, especially if she has multiple services, like, you know, time to renew for SNAP or time to renew for this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good feedback, Vanessa. I do though, I think I heard you talking about TADVS. You cannot get any information about TADVS through the one online portal or through the one mobile app. It's completely blocked. So when an individual, I'm sorry, I'm going to nerd out for a minute, James, and tell me to stop when it's time for me to stop. Okay. When an individual applies for TADVS, we create their account, their case in a black box. So if they're on SNAP and TANF and medical, and also they apply for TADVS, that TADVS does not connect at all to the rest of their case. They're in a complete black box. The case numbers are not even accessible through the one online portal. So if all I am receiving, for example, is TADVS, I cannot log into my one online portal and see anything about my TADVS. It's 100% blocked out. So we wouldn't necessarily see an issue with people. Well, people would not have the opportunity to go paperless for TADVS, but for other programs, yes, if they're like having a hard time figuring out where to get them on the mobile app, etc. Have we looked at the really bad drafted language at all that I put in, James? I mocked stuff up.
Oh, yeah, we already went through them.
Oh, wow.
I know, we were blazing.
Wow, yeah.
But we can go back.
Can we go back to that paperless one?
I think that's the first one.
Yeah. So I mocked this up. Like, this is, Sam sat here and was like, yeah, these words are kind of like, okay, I don't know, they'll have better words. I'm hearing your feedback that you want a better explanation of where they can find these notices. We can modify what I have here in this little pop-up any way that works for you guys. You guys get to choose the language. My job here is to make sure that it meets our requirement to be at a 6th grade reading level, for it to be plain text 6th grade reading level, and for it to be technically accurate. Otherwise, whatever you guys want to say, if this is something you're interested in, however you want to say it, whatever information you want to put in the pop-up, however much you want to shorten it or lengthen it, that's all up to you guys.
Samantha, this is George. I think, in my opinion, the mobile app on the phone should be somehow connected to their account with online, just in case if they lose something online, they can go back to their mobile app if they can't get into the online on the computer. But here's the thing, when they go into their account, before they go into their account on the mobile app, they should already, since they've already done the account and everything and get a confirmation number, I think they should take the confirmation number and keep that confirmation number so that when they go into the mobile app, they can put in the confirmation number and it could take them straight to their account on the phone. If you're following me here.
I think what we're talking about is that case number that's generated after they submit their application.
Right.
Yeah, okay. The problem is that case numbers get sent out in the mail. And so it wouldn't be secure for us to just allow people to log into the mobile app just using their case number. We have to have them use that account, but the account that they use in the one online portal is the same account, same username, same password that they should be using in the mobile app. So they shouldn't have to create a new account in the mobile app. It should be a seamless, you can log into either. I will give an example. Recently, I was doing a test where I was trying to change a password in mobile app. It wouldn't let me. So I had to go into the web to do it. It's the same exact account, same username, same email address, same password. They just log in between the two, the two portals. It's basically, it's like the equivalent of accessing your Amazon account either on your desktop or on your phone in the Amazon app. It's the same similar concept. So it should be once they've submitted through the one online portal, they should be able to then go in and just use the mobile app without having to. They shouldn't need the case number or confirmation number. They should just be able to log in with those same credentials.
So the confirmation number, is there a case number?
Yes, so when they submit, they will either get a case number or an application number, depending on a bunch of boring technical things. But yeah, so they can refer back to those numbers when working with ODHS. If they say like, hey, I submitted an application and it's 500-123-4876, a worker should be able to look that up.
And I didn't realize the confirmation was the case number.
Yeah, it's a shift from our older systems for sure. Yeah.
So you should be able to get into the mobile app without having to use a username and password on your phone, even though you've got an account online on the computer.
You have to use the same username and password that you used on the computer on the mobile app, and then you should be all set.
Okay.
So actually, oh, go ahead, George.
So how frequent are you guys gonna have someone use a username and password and change it every time? Is it gonna be a continuous 90 days, 6 months, every 6 months to change the password?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. By the way, I was testing because it was broken and I was confirming it for a defect fix. Right now, the password reset, like the password expiration is, I believe, every 3 months. Every 3 months, the password will expire and they'll need to reset. I've got that defect fix logged in though, so it should be fixed next month. So they'll be able to do password updates through the mobile app as well. But yeah, it's about every 3 months that they need to do that.
Okay, a suggestion I would like to make, and that is for you guys to make it as easy as it can on the changing of the password, because the other application that has been up and running before this, which is called the PTC system for the state caregivers, it's driving them nuts, having to change it every 6 months.
Mhm. Is it just the every 6 months, or are there other criteria about it that's annoying?
Well, it was like it was getting to every half of a 30 days, and then it went to 30 days, and then I think it went to 60 days, and then it was driving the state caregivers nuts.
Mm-hmm. So it was just the frequency that was causing problems?
Yeah, because they couldn't remember what their password was at the beginning.
I totally get that. I only have to change mine once every 3 months and I can't remember it. So I feel that. No, that's a problem.
And then the employers on the other side, when they have to go into accounts on the PTC system, people with a mental illness, it drives them nuts.
Yep. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Having to change your password really frequently, we know it's a problem. You know, for a lot of people, like I'm 40. I can't remember if I have to change my password too frequently. I use BitLocker to keep them because I can't remember either. But for older individuals, I'm constantly going and helping my dad. We know people with mental illnesses, it's a challenge. People who are busy, it's a challenge. So we do try to keep it at the absolute least frequently we need to meet our, to align with the guidelines set by the Center for Medicaid Services, CMS. They're really, really particular, but I can take back and look at, have us examine again if there's been new guidance on how frequently passwords need to be changed, and see if we can even move that out past 3 months. So let me take a really quick note about that.
Okay, and make sure that it's 64-bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, agreed.
All right, so This has been a good discussion. We're back with the 5 options. I think we had a new person come and join us as well. But for those of you who haven't voted, please go ahead and put your options in order in the chat. And we'll take a brief break to make sure everyone has had a chance to weigh in. And we'll come reconvene at 2:46. Hope that sounds good. All right, that was a fast 5 minutes, wasn't it? So just as a reminder, if you haven't voted yet, or if you want to modify your vote and make things more complex, please let us know the order of these that you would like to see changed. Any other questions about any of them? And we should think about, I would love to hear ideas of how, if we had a longer list, how you would want them presented to you, and how you would want to vote, because that's something we need to consider as well. Yes, Vanessa.
I would love to get a list ahead of time and like be able to, like, I think having like the safety question, I would change my vote now knowing that we're able to change it and have that be a task, like with like, what are the changes that we can make? Is there like, do we have suggestions? And then depending on what, because I think that's going to make a big difference on how it impacts the client, then being able to vote, because it's hard to like, oh, this is what it is. And then we're kind of trying to troubleshoot, well, would it look like this, or could it be applied like that? So having the ability to get these ahead of time so that we can kind of work through it, so that when we come, we kind of come prepared of what it would look like, the scope. And then, I mean, maybe American Idol it next, or you didn't make it to the next round.
I think
I
that's a good
agree with
idea,
her very
Melissa.
much.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah,
Say that again, Judy.
I think that's a good idea. That if we had a little bit, head start on it, then we would be able to kind of,
Yeah.
maybe do a better job and actually save time.
Yes, I think, and so when it comes to I'm just imagining how it's going to look to get we can get the information to you ahead of time, a few days, hopefully the Friday before type of thing. But I'm guessing we'll need, brief description, a paragraph description, and a paragraph or a picture, a screenshot of where it would be. So I'm going to say that it's daunting, the idea of doing that for like all 30. So we still will probably, and there's probably more than 30.
Well, okay, if you don't want to do that, then send out this and say, well, no, okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, giant eraser.
I mean, that is an option too. We could send out shorter descriptions, like which ones do you want to learn more about type of thing too. It could be something like that. Because the lists that I look at, I have trouble looking at them. I instant message Samantha. It's like, what's this one about? What's going on here?
And the other thing is, Vanessa, is that everyone's input, I learned so much from you and Melissa, just hearing how it affected your daily work. Kind of like, okay, that makes sense. And then I was able to make a better decision. So, looking at that, I would say, as a group, for some of us who are newbies, what you're saying impacts how I'm going to make a decision on this. So I can't make that decision before the meeting.
Yeah. Well, it's a chicken and egg problem. We're always going to, need some information to move forward, and then as we get more information, we can change. Like for instance, right now, Vanessa, you say you want to change your vote. You can change your vote. We're not set in stone here. You can put in a new amount.
Sent in blood, that's it. No, but I also get what you're saying. Like if we're gonna have a large amount, it would be nice to have like a little bio with some information, and maybe allowing us like a pre-vote, like, okay, these are the 10 that we really either want to know more about or could see it really affect. And then, so then when we come to this group, like having these because now I'm thinking like, if someone else had a question that I had, or, hey, this is a situation, how was everyone going to get that so that it doesn't get convoluted? And she's like, wait, is she talking about number 11? Is she talking about number 16? What, like, where is there a workspace that we can all get to and look and see where everyone kind of like almost like Facebook, everyone commented on it and then it changed and now it looks like this. Like, where is there a place where we can all collaborate at the same time and see the inputs before we get here?
Vanessa, are you talking about like on the list, going and vote, and then once the voting's done, go by each one? And getting information for one at a time?
Well, I think it'll be, okay, let me try this out. So we get some options to you, maybe next week, you know, and there's a whole bunch of them, but they're really short descriptions. And then you've got 3 days or something like that, you know, some reasonable amount of time to get back to us and say, here are the 10 that I find most intriguing that I want to consider. And then a few days after that, we'll, you know, so then we'll prepare those. And so a couple days before the meeting, we'll get you a nice, you know, we'll get the screenshot, we'll get a better description for you. And then at the meeting, we can have the discussion where you learn from each other and hopefully vote at the meeting. Or if we can't, if we feel like we're not there yet, we can put it off. But I do want to try to get decisions made, if at all possible, at these meetings.
I guess I'm kind of confused. I was trying to verify with Vanessa as to, like, we get to vote from A through E. And then once the rollout comes out, then we would go down the list one at a time, each time, correct?
So I'm kind of visualizing, I don't know how like, have you ever heard of Canva?
No,
Probably not. Okay, so Canva is like, say we're all gonna make a flyer. I will like put a place where everyone is gonna see these 3 different flyers, and then everyone's gonna say, that flyer is atrocious, I like this one. And then I start working on that flyer, and as I'm working on it, all of us can jump in and change and make questions to it and say, well, why is this here? Why is it this font? We should use this verbiage. And everyone on the team is there. So before we're here, if I had a question like, hey, like, does it have to be a pop-up? Like, then, you know, that would be addressed. I can drop in like, hey, this is a situation, what I'm concerned if it's a pop-up, and everyone's able to see that. So then you can make a question as well, George, like, well, why, well, instead of saying you're getting paper right now, like you're getting paper notices, like that would make more sense to me. You're getting paper notices or paper updates on your file. So then when we come here, we don't have to go through each one. We can say, hey, of all of the ones that we inputted on, these are the 3 that I really am kind of like, these are my top 3. How does everyone feel that these are my top 3, or what does this apply to? So we're kind of doing a little bit of homework ahead of time in that shared workspace. And I'm just saying Canva because that's what we all use. We all make flyers or presentations or Excel sheets, whatever, ahead of time.
okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder about everyone's familiarity with some of these shared programs, you know, because I don't know if I've used Canva, but I've used other versions as well. So that makes me a little nervous, but if that's something that the group is interested in, we could certainly explore that. Mariah.
I just had a question. I know that these were items, you know, that you're bringing to us and everything to brainstorm on, and some of them seem like, you know, they're simpler. They seem a little simplified and stuff, but I'm wondering at what point do we bring some of our suggestions on what we're seeing on our end and everything to you about what we're actually experiencing as barriers inside the system right now?
Yeah, that is something that
It's kind of like we're just working to a task list that they provide to us that they want our input on and stuff, but it's like, how about for tribal members not being able to be in their preferred CCO right now, or auto enrolling tribal members into CCOs when they're not supposed to be? Those larger issues at hand that are currently affecting me right now on everyday use kind of thing. It's kind of like these ones, paperless. It's kind of like In the medical assistance application, it already gives an option, paper only, email only, text and email, paper and email. It gives a million options for correspondence. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The safety concern pop-up text, it's kind of like each of our, what we do is going to be different. Yeah, I work in a tribal organization segment. So it's like my resource to them, you know, might be DCFS or something, which might not be the same as somebody across the state. You know, it's like I'm kind of having to navigate some of the resources as well, along with the DHS, for what we might be able to offer here. You know, pencil and icon usage and stuff. It's kind of like I go through and I see, I just know that little pencil means I'm editing. You know what I mean? You click on it and then you at the bottom of your edit, then you hit update and then it sticks, you know? And so some of these seem like minor, small fixes in comparison to, say, CCOF or CCO enrollment, and then the specific plans under that CCOF that are extremely important right now. So I'm kind of like, how big or how little? It's like, are we going to be working on smaller or?
Okay. Yeah, this is our initial run. This is definitely with, you know, as I said at the beginning, with our training wheels here. We will be hitting some of these bigger ones, but this allows us with some simple ones to get a dry run on how we're going to be setting this up. But Mariah, I appreciate you bringing us back to some of the bigger goals, because I think some of these things that you talked about probably are in our list, and I just of suggestions. So one, we have some of them. Two, we are also developing a form that anyone, including you or whoever, and of course you can bring them up in these meetings too, or send us an email, you know, offline to make specific suggestions. Actually, you should feel free to do that anytime. And so we can prepare them, because as you can see, it takes a little bit of preparation to be able to present to the group so everyone can understand, you know, what screen we're talking about, who, you know, what populations this affects, things like that. So, but we absolutely want this group to be able to make suggestions as well. So it's just, I think it's taking, it's taking a bit of time to get us to that spot. I hope that sounded reasonable to you, Mariah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Because we do have, I know Brandy had to leave us, but speaking of bigger topics, one possible idea is this sheet, which has when you have to make a change, and this, I think, Mariah, you may recognize this page. This is for the OHP changes, and I think Samantha, when she was first showing this to me, it's like, this is a hot mess, because
It is.
Well, I'll give you one example on this page alone. You'll put on there, I need to report, you know, like basically, let's say if had it happen and stuff like a death, you know, like I have to report a death and there's only one person on the case and it was that person who passed away. If I put on there, I need to report, then when I go back and it allows me to click on the household member, the only one, I can't actually click on the person who passed away or even put it just auto sends me back into this weird spiral. So I was like, I can't actually even report the death of this person, even if I was the assister on their case, through the thing in which it's giving me the option to do. But then when you get to it, you actually can't. You can't do that, you know. So there's definitely barriers.
It's an absolute hot mess. When I was showing this to James and like mortifying him, I was telling him, you know, in my own use of this, there's so many options depending on which program you're in. That I pull F to find what I need to, because I can't find it on this list. So this feels like one of those bigger things we can take on. And Mariah, when you were giving your example, actually, what I was thinking of, oh, I wonder if we could add some logic to this so that like somebody cannot, if somebody chooses that they need to report somebody has died, but it's a one person household, instead of allowing them to do that, it then gives them a, hey, you need to actually contact us to do that, or whatever the steps are. So I appreciate you guys a lot. You are giving me a lot to think about here. But yeah, this is a big one. This is a big messy guy. But it's also a big barrier that I think that people, like I'm seeing Mariah's head nod because she has to deal with it. Like, this is a big barrier for people, and this might be a big win as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
this-
does where every problem has a solution, solution-oriented minds here.
And well, and this solution is a bigger bite of the apple, and it's something that, you know, we'll think about. How do you want to present it? Do we want to categorize it? Do we want to have some logic that redirects, you know, all these different things? And it's that's also a question, how to present all this so this group can give their input. And so okay, well, I feel like we got to go back actually, Angel, if before we talk about next meeting a little bit, go back one more, as a matter of fact, because I understand. Well, Melissa, do you want to? Are you willing to tell us where we're at when it comes to all the voting?
I am. So Ruth is the only person I don't see a vote from yet. And with that, we have 3 votes for B, 3 votes for C, and 1 vote for D.
Did we see the comment from Ruth on, before we do this?
Yes.
So I am concerned we are assuming people have the knowledge to use all these tools. Ruth, and then you also messaged me separately. Can you say more about that comment, Ruth?
Well, we're making decisions here about that. People are going to know what safety concerns are. And they're going to know how to match mobile apps. And I would say, especially in the senior arena, this is probably you probably only 25% of the people are even going to understand what you're talking about. And so how are we going to ask them what is most important to them when they don't even know for sure what you're talking about?
And you're talking about when you say what we're asking them.
The questions, the 5 questions that you were asking there.
Oh, well, we're not asking
Well, but
the population, we're asking just this group here.
well, right. But what I'm saying is, if people don't even understand what the security is or what a password is and what it means to change it, how are we going to be making decisions that they need to change it every little bit when they're not even capable of setting it up in the first place? So I think we're making assumptions here that we're making these questions applicable to everyone, but I don't think that we're making it available in a way that they understand what we're even trying to talk about. I don't know how to express it any other way in that I just think that we're presenting oranges to people that are apples.
So let me restate your concern that make sure I understand it, that we have this system that is opaque, that is difficult for people, and now we're sort of like we're trying to judge between two admittedly small things here, or 5 small things, when we've got this larger problem of inaccessibility. Is that
right?
Yeah, this is when I was an advocate as well, it's about making the small changes that we can do to improve things. Like that larger question of accessibility of too many password changes, to does people have internet? There's It's a lot to read here. Those are big questions that we do need to address. But we also have this opportunity to make these smaller improvements that won't necessarily help all the people we're talking about, but it'll help some people, a few people, ease their application.
So will
Okay,
we
if you're
go
gonna look
back
at-
and address how to help the smaller population later?
Say the first part, Judy.
Well, what Ruth is asked, or what Ruth is saying, if I agree with, and that there is a population that this whole thing's not gonna make anything. They're not gonna be able to figure out how to do changes and even what is a password and all that. So how do we, are we dealing with that on another plane? And if not, when will we do that?
I see. Yeah, and as Samantha points out in the chat, you know, we don't even have 25% of our 60-year-old and older population using the one portal at all right now. It's the way people have access to it is they call or they have an assister, someone like Mariah who helps them get access to the program. And so in a sense, our changes here are helping those assisters do their job better.
Okay. So is there some sort of precursor to all of this? Because, you know, forgive me, I have not been here for the first couple of meetings, but is there a precursor to all of this saying, if you do not feel comfortable with computer skills and et cetera and so on, we are able to help you by telephone or et cetera and so on?
Yeah, there's many methods that somebody, when they go to the local
So-
DHS and ask, then if you need help, then that's what the sisters are here for
So
online.
Mariah, what we're saying is that by the time we've gotten to here, these people have already been pretty much weeded out if they want to be, so that they can go through the computer process.
No, if they wanted to do it, there's resources to be able to help them to navigate the interface and stuff. Yeah, but for the people who are currently using the interface,
Okay.
I'm an assister and I'm also a patient or recipient of, and so I'm capable of doing the online portal myself and navigating it and stuff. I understand there's many of our elder population who are not comfortable.
It's not always the
technology.
elder population. It's
Not always. There's many that are not technologically,
Right.
comfortable, but then that's what us in-person assisters or paper applications and such are for, or phone, calling OHP,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Because we have, in our IDD population, some of these people, not all of them, but some of them cannot navigate through all of this. And so I'm just trying to figure out, since Ruth is talking about that these things are a little, for some, a little out of their toolbox. So is there a precursor to everything that says, if you are not comfortable with computer or whatever, I'm sorry because my verbiage is not correct, but anyway, dial this number and we will schedule a meeting for you. Would that help, Ruth?
Well, as Mariah's talked about, we do have assisters for medical. Now, there's a huge gap that we don't have assisters presently for SNAP and other programs. That's something that we are in blazing government fashion, very slowly working on,
Mhm.
not that we're working slowly, but the process is very slow. But there are this network of assisters to help, at least with the medical application, to open an account, things like that. And I wish, as when I was first recruiting for this, we have a limited scope. We have this computer interface that people are interacting with. Now, this is in addition to the old fashioned call someone up or go to an office. This is just an addition. And people can still go to those things, but this computer interface we're trying to make as accessible as possible now through a mobile app as well. But I know, Ruth, that this could feel just like a small thing. And why are we tackling these bigger ones? Well, we're tackling what we can. And it's frustrating even to say that, you know.
Well, I'm dealing with frustration myself right now in that one system can't seem to figure out where I live. And so my mail is going everywhere. And they sent me a letter on the 4th of June, and I got it yesterday because it's been dancing around in the mail system.
Hmm.
And when I went in on the computer, and I'm not too stupid, I do use the computer a lot. Nobody could figure out because nobody has the right address. And these are the kind of things that I'm seeing that people get so frustrated that if they can't make contact with somebody and get something straightened out, then they just give up and quit.
Yep.
And so these are my kind of concerns, is that we're setting up all these fancy systems and trying to figure out which and what is the best, but we're not looking at the problems the system has. And so all the fancy things that we set up aren't going to work if we don't make the system work.
Yeah, there's definitely this case of you receiving a letter, 7 weeks later. That's something we should investigate. It sounds like maybe there's a wrong address or something that needs to be corrected. And the fancy system we have, hopefully in the mobile app that could, you can check to make sure the address is updated, or on, you can do that yourself, or you could call, which of course means a long wait on the phone. But these are all options that the system is slowly stabilizing and hopefully making easier to correct.
I guess I don't see where the two are going to mesh, that we can think of all these fancy things for the portal and everything.
Well, I
But
think the portal is kind of also just trying to aid capacity, because some families, they're working 9 to 5 and they can't make a phone call, and this is their only
Right.
option to engage in the one. So trying to make that as easy and seamless as possible for them, because they can't take a day off of work to stay on the phone for hours. And just like everyone else, ODHS is at capacity. It's hard. You don't want to see a case pending for 60 days plus, but everyone is really like, I'm working 60 hours a week and still have a turnout of things that need to get done. So this is just kind of more of like an add-on to the system. We know the system's not broken. I mean, we know the system isn't perfect and we have things to work out, but it's just like, how can we make this one thing a little bit easier to expand access for more people?
thank you.
And there's one thing I like to tell advocates is don't stop pushing. Don't stop thinking it should be better, because you're right, it should be better. And the instinct for agency employees is to okay, I'm busy, I'm just going to do my own stuff and not try to improve things as much. So that's why we rely on you to be pushy. So Ruth, I know it's frustrating, but I also really appreciate that your willingness to keep pushing to make it better, because we need to keep looking at that.
Well, and I'm concerned that if this is happening to me, how many others are getting the same kind of
Yep.
treatment?
I agree. Absolutely. And so I'm going to make the awkward transition to this to this smaller decision ahead of us here. It's, we did have a few votes, and admittedly, these are frustratingly small, but this is our, like I said, trial run to see this process. And so we're seeing a little more interest in that middle one, the clarified password special characters, which of all these small things is probably the smallest of them, but it also potentially affects the most people too. So I could see the interest in it. Is this something that this group wants to put on, the September change? So we'll actually see it in the one system, what, mid-September? I forgot exactly when that comes out.
Well, first, James, all this has to be done before September, the legislature, right? Did it has to be approved by the legislator?
No, this is nothing to do with the legislature. They tell us broad things. They give us our budget, give us our positions. They tell us, hey, have this one system that's working. Now we're in the details implementation phase of things. So it's, yeah, this, you could tell legislators they'd probably be interested, but this is not something that's going to be in a bill. This is literally something that we do as an agency with your input, with your guidance, and we're going to do it. It doesn't have anything to do with the upcoming legislative session.
Okay, so it's not an actually deadline for us to get all this done, right?
Yeah, oh, and we have so many more things like Mariah has talked about. There's so many other changes that we're going to be wanting to make in the next weeks and months.
Okay, just so I know. Okay.
I'm a big fan of context questions because I know the temptation is like, oh, I should know that, figure it out. So George, I appreciate you asking that.
I do want to comment on that one form that you had showed earlier. I think the form should be shorter.
Yep.
That one form you were showing earlier.
Yeah, Angel, if you go to the next to last slide. Yep, nope. One up, there we go.
That one. I think it should be shorter.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole subject too of how to, not only should we improve it, but what should we replace it with? That's a tricky.
I think a drop down, like it could be either income, family size, or whatever. And then when you drop family size, it's adding or removing. Why is it being adding or removing? Is it, death, birth, pregnancy, incarceration, like doing a drop? Because I joke around, like I hate going to Ross, at least because I have so many options that I walk out. Like that's what this feels like. This is overwhelming. So like send me to an expensive place where I have 3 options and I'll just pick one of those 3, not like overwhelm me with all the colors and smells. Like this is what that feels like to me.
Yeah. I mean, we can make icons and have them grouped by that too. We have a lot of options.
I don't mind so much the options and stuff. It is a lot. It is overwhelming in a sense when you have somebody in front of you and you're trying to read through all and pick the best option. However, it's going to rerun me through page by page by page. And at that point, I'm usually going through most of all of the information and I still have to submit at the end anyway. Even if it's one change, you're going to go through multiple. So, regardless if I pick one, I usually end up just going through their case with them real quick at that point, making sure everything's okay anyway. Because even if it takes you back towards the top of it, it's going to make you run through page by page and then submit at the end anyhow. So I don't mind. There's a lot of options. I just want to make sure that all of our options are the right options, or it's meeting anything that maybe we haven't come across yet or should be added. There's been one in the past where I'm like, oh, there's not an option for that. And you have to do other reason. And it just takes you page by page anyway.
Yeah. So, okay, we're getting a little distracted with what we're going to be talking about in the future. Without objection, I'm going to submit that that middle option, that little password, tiny change. we'll have to think about the wording of just a smidgen too, because the original wording I had on the slide, I don't think is necessarily the best, but and we could just send that out with the notes in the email and get some responses. But okay, I want to plug though, since we're only less than 5 minutes left of the meeting, what's coming up. And so a couple weeks, we'll have a longer list. We'll try to, I think we're going to get a longer list of items for you. They won't be nicely described, but I think we'll ask you to get the descriptions to us. If we figure out, I don't want to drop it on via email. I'd rather do it in a meeting where we can show people like a shared web space or something. I don't think we should do that before the next meeting, but maybe that's something we can do at the next meeting, is some of the options of a shared web space that we can take a look at. And Ruth, you have a point. Maybe we should have longer meetings. That's something we can discuss as well. I know that's not appealing probably to anyone, but here we are running out of time again. And so that really has to do with the prioritization system that we're going to be using. We also, Mariah, what you mentioned, how do we get our suggestions in? Well, you can email us, but we want to have a form that is available to the larger population too, that can fill out. So we'll talk about that next time. And then I have an obnoxious question for this group. Turns out my anniversary is around the 23rd, so I was thinking of running off. So wondering if it's okay if we move the meeting 1 week later. I know that's really, I'm taking facilitator abusive power here to do this, but I'm wondering if that's going to be okay with everyone. This is the part where you chime in and say no or whatever.
How dare you?
James, enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life. Know when we need to
Absolutely
be here
not.
again.
I mean, good grief. A personal right, James. No, no.
You guys are very kind.
Which meeting?
The August 23rd, not the next one, but the
August
one
23rd.
following.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The next one be as scheduled, but we'll have to create a new Zoom link and all that sort of stuff if we move it.
And a calendar.
Okay. Well, we'll finalize that at the next one. But I want to thank you for all your questions, all the discussion. It was great. I really appreciate the different viewpoints this group has. It makes it, it's going to make it trickier for us to come to consensus as we work on these things. But at the same time, I think it makes the result a lot better too. So I want to encourage those of you who haven't been speaking up as much. We want to hear from you. I see that smile, Sydney. Thank you. And Marla, we want to hear from you too. So I really appreciate you all, and we'll be in contact soon. And again, feel free to contact us if you have questions or concerns as well.
James, the August 9th is in stone. You just want the 23rd on the 30th.
Correct.
Okay.